All right, we are back again this week on Pesos and Cervezas. Oh, wait, that's a different show that Nick and I are going to do when we move to Mexico. We're back on Bucks and Brews. So my wife thinks I'm an idiot over here, but I don't really give a shit because she bought me 2 beers this week, Nick.
Yeah.
And I've had them before, but I'm excited to have them again. So first off, we're talking Saugatuck Brewing Peanut Butter Porter.
Oh, what a good beer.
And then another one of my favorite breweries, Rochester Mills.
Oh, 12 Days of Christmas is out.
Toasted Marshmallow Milkshake Stout.
There you go. That's one of them. That's fantastic.
What do you got, my friend?
Oh, I got me a little Lady Luck Imperial Red Ale from Carabine 4 Brewery. I got one that we've had on here before, New Glarus Fat Squirrel. So I'd say it's a good daily drinker, right? Because I'm going to drink daily, and because tonight's episode excites me so much, I always like to bring out fun things. So I have Odd Side Ales, Hazel's Nuts with toasted marshmallow and coconut. This is a quick story. David and Dawn were sitting at home, and all of a sudden I get a text that says, "Hey, this place, 20 minutes from you has all 3 of these variants from Odd Side Ales." I said, and they go, "Yeah, we weren't paying $25 for a 4-pack." Within 20 minutes, David had a text message with a photo of me buying all of them. And so my wife and I combined, it is our favorite beer that we agree upon. I can't say, I can't pick a favorite beer, but it's our favorite group beer that we agree upon. Hands down, if that was the choice, it would be Odd Side. I'm really excited to try the variant, toasted marshmallow and coconut. Hazel's Nuts is exactly what it sounds like, right? It's a hazelnut. It's a hazelnut stout that just tastes fantastic. Odd Side in Grand Haven. If you guys want to go ahead and give us a sponsorship on that, I will gladly drink anything from them. I love that place. Favorite breweries, it's probably my favorite brewery because of the amount of great beer that they put out.
You do have very, very good beer. So I'm going to do a callback to a show a couple weeks ago. We talked about what would happen after the election. And we went kind of in depth on what happens when an incumbent gets reelected and what happens, when they get voted out. And Jim made the observation that, with the market, if Biden wins, the market will probably have strong gains in the beginning because it's going back to a sense of normalcy. There's no more craziness going on, and they just want stability. And of course, if you're looking at the market today, you see the market's up over, 31,000 or something today? Yeah. The Dow. So I get into an argument with an idiot on Facebook today who he feels that it's all due to Trump, which those of us that aren't stupid know that it's not, because if it was, it would have been, over 31,000 already. So I argued, I had a guy jump on there that basically said, those of us that work in the field and do prospectus, we were expecting this when Biden got elected, that the market would start jumping. And of course, the guy came back with, he could care less what this guy thinks, and this guy's an idiot, and you're all stupid. And of course, I'm kind of a pompous ass. So I start attacking, I could care less. Why would you listen to anybody that doesn't know the difference between I could care less and I couldn't care less? And just started to hammer the guy. So long story short, Nick, the person that was on my side, I gave a plug for Bucks and Brews. He might be listening to us now.
My boy, I hope he enjoys it. So tonight's episode is near and dear to my heart. Investment real estate. It's what I suck at and what I strive for. I mean, so no, yeah. So right, we talk about it all the time. I've been doing it for oh gosh, 10, 11 years now. 32 years old. Started when I was 20. Um, and it's given me a lifestyle that I have. I mean, I still can't afford internet, so right, we always have to give the plug out to somebody with internet. If they want to sponsor us, we will show the world how good our podcast can be with really good internet. So, um, I normally when I do these things, right, so I meet with a group of people, and then people kind of ask me questions. So tonight we're going to kind of structure it that way. Honestly, it was fun because David's like, hey, I got a bunch of questions for you, and I was like, this is awesome. This is just gonna, like, this is normal, right? A bunch of people usually buy me a bunch of beer. The more I drink, the more I tell, and we're gonna have at it for a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this because I do not do rentals. It's out of my wheelhouse. There's just I'm not handy. Nick is very handy, so he's very hands-on with everything. That's not me, and I don't want to hire somebody to do it. It's beyond what I want to do right now at 43 years old. Maybe in a few years I'll start picking Nick's brain more and start dabbling in it, but for now we're going to have Nick kind of explain some strategies behind real estate investing. And I went and did some research, and Nick forgot all of his notes because he had certain things he wanted to hit. And I said, well, let me read you what I have and see if, I hit any of these. He goes, I guarantee you didn't hit anything. So I read him the list, and he goes, man, you hit everything.
I'm writing down going, good for you. Like, I was like, man, you had to have Googled or something. He goes, yeah, I did. I was like, because people that invest, like, yeah, it's just, it's something, and you'll hear words all the time, right? So one of the big things, just to let everybody know, I am a buy and hold investor, right? When you say the words, I'm a buy and hold investor, people look at you like, huh? And you just say, I'm a landlord, right? That's right. So people that own the building that rent to other people. So you have a couple ways you can do it, right? So I do what's called self-manage, right? Like David said, I mean, I talk to my tenants. So right from the beginning, I get there, I sign their leases, I talk to them, I interview them, maintenance calls, right? I take care of all of that. I am the go-to, the number one thing. Um, you can do a management company, right? So if you own a rental and you don't want to get the phone calls, you don't want to deal with tenants, you just want to make the money in theory, um, you can hire a management company. Yes, it's going to cost you. So usually everybody says right around 10%. I mean, right now the economy is good, and companies are fighting for things. So, I mean, you can get it down lower, just, ask and stuff. And the more you own, usually the cheaper it gets. But those people, so, right, let's say you rent, I like round numbers. So, let's say you have rent for $1,000. Okay. So $100 of every check is going to go to the management company, and then you get $900 to pay your mortgage, to do whatever. And all management companies are structured so differently. So I want to make sure you shop your management company, because, I say, I know some that they make you now you have $900, right? So you pay your mortgage payment, and for round numbers, say $500 is your mortgage payment. So you have the $400 different. Some management companies will make you take that $400 and invest it into an emergency fund right away. So that way, they have money for water heaters, roofs, things like that. Other companies don't, right? They just call you and say, hey, how do you want to do this? And then you could just pay them a big lump sum, once you get things done. But right, they're gonna call, and they're gonna have, they're gonna take all the phone calls for water heaters. They're gonna take hey, I got locked out. Hey, my roof's collapsing and the whole world is ending. And then you get over there and nothing is actually that catastrophic. So, there's, if you don't like people, you don't want to interact with people, you're more of an introvert, right? You can even have a management company who will strictly just put the tenant in place. So, like, if you're handy but don't want to deal with people, they can place the tenant for you for a fee. If you want to interview the tenants and know who's in your place and all that, and you know what and you don't have you're not handy at all, you can hire the management company just to do maintenance, right? Like there's management companies out there to fit your exact need, whatever you want. So, that's so when you hear buy and hold, just think landlord. Right? That's what I tell people.
So
Another way, go ahead, David.
So Nick, I know when you're looking for rentals to buy, there's something called the 1% and the 2% rule.
There is.
What is that exactly?
It's a horrible lie that everybody tells. No, right. So the 1% rule and 2% rule are just basic numbers to let you know that you'll be able to cover your mortgage and your bills will be kind of paid. So we go back to the house, right? You bought it for $100,000, right? 1% of that is $1,000. You want to ask yourself, can I get $1,000 in rent? And if so, chances are, I mean, like at $100,000 with your down payment, your mortgage payment's going to be $850, taxes, insurance, everything like that. So in theory, if you have no other bills, right, you're cash flowing $150 on it. But you're not taking into consideration capital expenditures. For people that don't know, capital expenditures are long-term improvements, things like, a roof or a water heater, a furnace / boiler, repair, and then you have your repairs, which are common things. Doorknobs, if it gets broken, right? I mean, those $30 add up. Let's see. Outlets go out. I mean, yes, outlets are. It's funny because, right, an outlet cost $1.27. A new cover cost, I don't know, 32 cents. I'm at $2. If I hire somebody to do that, it's going to cost me like $30. But it's so repairs and capital expenditures are different. One is long term. One is kind of just what you need for getting by every year type of a thing. The 2% rule, which is, I got stupid and lucky to start that way. It's like the 1% except for 2%. So if let's say I buy a duplex now, I mean, you don't usually find 2% in houses. I mean, you can in your lower class areas, right? That people nowadays, they rank them A, B, C, and D, right? David, you and I live in an A neighborhood, and then middle of Grand Rapids is going to be a D neighborhood. Your Chicago people, right? Your inner city Chicago, you kind of know what the nice areas are. Manhattan is an A neighborhood, where the Queens or the Bronx, whatever you want to call it, is going to be your C's and D's. But 2%. So you buy a duplex for $100,000 again. You want to be able to get $2,000 in rent. So in order to get $2,000 in rent, it comes from all the units combined. So you're going to rent one side out for $1,000, the other side out for $1,000. That's $2,000. You still have that same, what do we say, $850 mortgage payment if you bought it, 3.5% down, whatever it is. And so then, you're cash flowing much better. The reason I say I got lucky, so I bought my first house at $60,000, my first duplex, at $60,000. And the numbers were so easy for me because the one rent was $600, and that's 1%, and the other rent was, of course, $600. So that's 2%. And when I learned the 1% rule, he kind of described it the same way, like, hey, 1%, you're gonna make it by, kid. Like money's not gonna be great, but it'll be a good long-term rental. As long as it's in a good area. You won't, and I found the first one and I was like, well, 2%. I was like, man, if this dude got to where he is at 1%, I want to do 2% and get there faster, quote unquote. Coming to find out that it's just because the market was still really low. Now, to be honest with you, that thing's at like a 3.5%. with the way rents have kind of gone up, and I can't complain. Um, yeah, so right, I always tell people, like, if you're gonna buy a 1%, make sure it's in a neighborhood. An A neighborhood is gonna be really good for you, because you know, I guess that's where you're gonna find your $250,000 houses, which should be nice in the Midwest area. And you're gonna hope to get a professional tenant in there that's gonna pay $2,500 a month. I mean, it's gonna have to be done up pretty nice in a nice way, and you're gonna draw a good clientele. So I think when you're looking at 1% and 2%, just know your markets, know what income you need to get and how much things cost. Um, when we talk about needing funds for repairs, a reminder is, right, if you have a 1,000 square foot house in the ghetto, it's going to cost you the same amount to do a 1,000 square foot house roof in Jenison or Byron Center, right? Like the cost is the same. You're just going to get bigger incomes in a nicer area. So people can fight either way. I know I have plenty of friends that own 100 ghetto houses and they cash flow like crazy, and I have friends that own 10 really nice high-end things, and they do just fine as well. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. Just know your numbers and know what money you have to have.
That makes a lot of sense, Nick. So let's get into some of the strategies. I know you started, talking about long-term buy and hold, but let's just go down the list. I'm going to ask you about each one. You're going to kind of give us the lowdown, okay?
I'll see what I can do.
So I know I was just looking up different types of strategies, and the first one I came on was live in and then rent.
Yep. So, right, it's usually called house hacking, I guess. So you buy a 3-bedroom ranch style house and you pay $200,000 for it. Okay, so you can get your mortgage. Well, now you're gonna rent out. You're a single guy, or I mean, my wife and I did it in our first house, right? So, we bought a 5-bedroom house, and I bought it dirt cheap. I could make my payments by myself, but right, I had family that needed help, and I had a friend move in with all that because he needed a place until he got married. Right, so then you just rent out a room to that person. They get use of the same the kitchen, everything like that, right? I mean, so usually I suggest, right, if you're going to do a house hacking, usually you want to know who the person. You're going to vet them probably more, right? Hang out with them just a little bit before you guys move in with each other. But it's just a way to have somebody else pay your mortgage while you're living there. You just own the house. A lot of college kids kind of do that, or a lot of real estate investors, where when their kid is going to college, they'll buy a place in Central, 4-bedroom house, and have them and their 3 buddies stay there, and the dad just happens to own the house or whatever, and the 3 buddies make the payment, and the kid lives for free. So you find a lot of that kind of happening there. Right downtown, we have Grand Rapids, we have Grand Valleys down there. So a lot of that happens down there as well.
I know another version of this is something you've done. So I remember you lived in the house in Granville, and then you had a duplex that you guys moved into one half of the duplex and rented out the other house in Granville.
Yeah.
Which, then you're obviously making more money off of that house than you would have been off just half of a duplex.
You would have thought, but
okay, maybe not.
That's the theory, is you should. Right? I kind of got started again. I bought a 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom house that should be renting for $1,800. I mean, back then it was probably $1,500, but I was young and dumb. And when my mortgage payment on $60,000 was like $500 or something, I'll throw honest numbers out there. Somebody offered $900, and again, having like a $550 mortgage payment, was like, oh man, I'm gonna cash flow like crazy. I'll move into the smaller place because I should be getting more money. Forgetting, I didn't know that like taxes went up when it's non-homestead. Homestead means, right, owner occupied. The person that owns it lives in the property. So yes, in theory, right, you should be making more money. I didn't right away. Still don't on that property. But no, it's it you can, I forget that people are calling that house hacking now as well. I just, say you can buy a four unit. I mean, some people go to commercial, but most people, right, when they're doing it, they're buying a four. To get FHA, you can do 3.5% down. We talked about that in the first real estate thing that we did, buying your first house. But you could buy a 4 unit and rent the other 3 apartments, so like completely separate, right? Then you have 4 kitchens, you have 4 bathrooms or more, whatever it is. 4 of everything except for 1 roof, you could have 4 furnaces, stuff like that. But right, then your tenants at that point are paying for your mortgage, and hopefully you're making money on that deal. That's a great strategy. I suggest that to a lot of people. Gives them a place to sleep, and you're making your payments and building an asset really quick.
Well, I know another strategy is BRRR.
Yeah, so it's called
I had to look up what that stood for.
It's called the Burr strategy.
Yeah, Burr, like it's cold outside.
Yeah, so
buy, remodel, rent, refi, and repeat.
Yeah, so we like to, in the game, we call it the Burr. Bigger Pockets talked about it. I think Brandon Turner was the kind of start of creating the word itself. But right, yeah, so it's exactly what it is, right? Buy, renovate, or rehab, rent it out, and then refinance. And you have to do it in that order, and then repeat. And so you do it in that order. So you buy the house. Usually it's in a dumpy condition type of a thing. I can't. There's possibilities where somebody's living in it and stuff like that, but it's a little more on the lower end. So you can build equity into it by putting higher end things into it. So you buy it, you renovate it, right? So you flip the property, or you go in and do flooring, bathroom, kitchen remodels, things like that, right? Put a roof on it if it needs, type thing. Then in order to get qualified for it to appraise higher, and for money to qualify, because your debt to income will come into a factor at some point. So when you renovate it, you're going to get a higher end rent because you're offering a higher end unit. So then you rent it for higher money, and that's where the refinancing comes into play. So it'll appraise at higher value. You'll show that your income is actually coming in on this place. So they'll be able to take 75% of that income and give it to you as profit, even though you're not necessarily always profiting the other 25%. Or so they're thinking you only owe 20, your payment should only be 25% of it. Even though it's not, and they can do the calculations, but they still give you like 75% of how much the rent is towards income. Then you go ahead and you repeat it, right? Buy another house, fix it up, rent it out, and refinance it. Pull the equity back out. So examples again, we're gonna do. You pay $50,000 for a pretty dumpy place. You put, I don't know, $20,000 into it, right? So you have 70,000, and you have, so at that point you have 20,000 of your own cash. Let's say you bought it for 3.5% down, or whatever it is. So at that point you have, $23,000 into it. Okay. 70,000 in total is what you owe, or unless you paid cash for it. But so you have $70,000 technically invested in this whole thing. Well, you go to refinance it, and at this time it's going to be valued at $100,000. So most banks will let you take 80% loan to value, right? So It's exactly what it says. So you can take a loan out based off the value of the house. So at this now 80%, right, is $80,000. You have 70,000 into it. Officially, you've taken money out. You've paid yourself $10,000 now at this point. You have paid yourself back your 20,000 and your 3,000 for closing cost, or for your down payment. Your closing costs will kind of come back. So at the end of it, you'll make, I don't know, a few $1,000s in profit, and then you have a rental that's producing cash flowing income on that. So if you can do that, that's a great strategy to do.
So let's look at some short-term options when it comes to real estate. So obviously there's flipping, which,
Yeah.
you know, I think the houses that you're talking about with the Burr method kind of fit into the flipping method, wouldn't you say?
So into the flipping, yes, usually, right?
Okay.
You can do a live-in flip, right? So the game is played quite a bit with people who are going to go slow. We call it a live-in flip, where the idea behind it is you're going to live there for about 2 years, and while you're living there, you slowly just renovate it. Because what happens after 2 years is you've been an owner occupied for 2 years, and you're not taxed on that money for your gains after 2 years. Otherwise, otherwise you get hit with a higher tax, right in the flipping game. So capital gains will eat away. So some people will just do it really, really slow, like every 2 years, 2.5 years. They'll buy another one, fix it up, and it's a good way to do it. But so flipping, right? The idea of flipping is to buy a house as cheap as possible, get the work done as fast as possible because your holding cost, everything about it, and get it put on the market and get it sold, and you get all your money right away, pay your taxes, and get on to the next one.
So after flipping, something we're all starting to look into, Airbnb. So I know with, somehow people have houses, they're in areas, that get some traffic. So, in Michigan, maybe they're in Grand Haven or, Holland or South Haven or, even in Grand Rapids. You got a house that you're going to rent out for somebody to come and stay at.
Well, and there's honestly with Airbnb, there's so many options. We can't even describe them all, to be honest with you guys. Like, yes, usually you find it when you go to vacation spots or things like that, right? You can, instead of using a hotel, you rent an Airbnb for the week, weekend, whatever it is. Right. So let's say you have a vacation house and you're not going to be there for the month because you're out in Mexico, like I'm going to be. Even with my house, right? Like I could put it up on Airbnb and have it rented. You can set it from, if you want to do it just one night, if you want to make sure the minimum is a week, a minimum of a month type of a thing. I have friends that do vacation rentals, strictly, like 1 week at a time. I have friends that, as you said, in Grand Rapids, they're right. A person comes in, doesn't want to stay at a hotel. They're kind of done with it. And they rent it out for a night or two, until the person leaves. It's honestly like a hotel on wheels is the way I like to look at it. I have friends that their full income is Airbnb money, right? Even during COVID, they're still getting it, right? So it's part of sometimes it can be part of your house, right? If you have a whole basement that you're not using, it could be that. It could be a whole secondary house that you're renting out. Short-term rentals for anything. I have a friend that strictly does hospital, right? So they do short-term rentals on, a traveling nurse or something comes in, especially during COVID. During COVID right now, like, hey, you're only needed for X amount of time. Great, they're guaranteed renting, and the next person comes in right after them, and so they strictly do it, right? I mean, there's so many business plans. I couldn't even name them all, as I said. Like when it comes to Airbnb, you're very flexible. The one thing to watch out for on Airbnb is they have been and they still are cracking down on it. Um, right? Because it's a business and they don't want random people constantly. And, the city doesn't feel like they're getting their cut of their money. Um, so it's really what it boils down to. Um, yeah, I say I look into Airbnb. I want to buy a cabin someday. Um, and I'll probably Airbnb it the times that I'm not a hunter, right? As much as I look like one. But the cabin I'm looking at, right, will be in a place where it'll be great for hunting. It's all by state land, and um, I'll use it in the summer, right, where the water is, and I can get my 4-wheeler out and go on all the dunes or go on the trails and things like that. But the winter, I might as well make a few bucks. I mean, it's a great way to have a little extra income in my business plan, right? I mean, I have friends that literally they bought a vacation house, never been to it. They just rent it all the time. So,
Well, see, and I know that, like, so I have 2 houses. The other one my mother lives in, and it's not in a vacation spot by any means. But for us, it offers a lot of advantages. I mean, it sits on 5 acres, it's got very nice property. And Dawn and I have discussed that, when the day comes that we actually take possession of this house, we'd really like to build a indoor pool there. And that will be our vacation spot. So, in the summer or even in the winter, we can head down, use the pool anytime we want. We have cats, they can go with us. It'll just be a nice little vacation spot. And since I work from home anyways, if we're not doing business for a couple of days, we're there and, we can kind of relax and chill out. I know that, so friends of ours, Tim and Christy, who Nick knows, they got a place out in Sandy Pines.
yep.
They were in Sandy Pines all summer.
Yeah.
Christy works from home. They spent their entire time there.
So you can't Airbnb. That's the only reason I don't own Sandy Pines anymore.
Yep.
So I had a place in Sandy Pines before I had a kid because I was planning for my future. I was like, man, my kid's going to want to grow up here. And I'm not a rules person. I don't know if everybody knew that about me and could tell that I hate other people telling me what to do.
Yep.
But right, so it's a vacation home park, I guess, right? So you have manufactured mini trailers, things like that, and
yep.
But there's rules, right? Like this is one of those places where you see people ride golf carts all over the place. They have events, and it's just a glorified campground. But right, you can't, you have to make sure that your leaves are raked up in a certain time. You have to power wash your trailer constantly. You have to, I mean, just there's so many violations, right? It's worse than condo living. Right, you can only park in the designated areas. You can't be out at certain times at night. Like there's just, we got a ticket in our first week because my dog was barking. And we got called out because the neighbor tried to come over to meet us, which was very nice of them. But my dog was left home because I had an emergency at my job. And I say we were there just a week and I was only gone for like 3 hours. Come back and I get a ticket. And I said, for what? And they said, well, your neighbor went over there and then your dog wouldn't stop barking. I said, let me get this right. So they knocked on my door and my dog did what it was supposed to do. And you're ticketing me for somebody coming onto my property. Oh, okay. Like I was so angry about it. And the lady told me, oh, you shouldn't leave your pet alone. And I flipped out. I was like, don't tell me what to do. I'm a very good pet owner. I mean, she was on vacation with me for so, but yeah, like you can't rent those out. It's strictly the member and associates, right? So your parents and like their kids only.
Yep.
I'm not a member there, and I might be someday, so I shouldn't say this, but I put it in my mother's name because at the time my grandparents were around and they used to camp and then they lost theirs. So I wanted them to be able to use it. So, cause my mom's parents could use it. And then I wanted all my brothers and sisters to be able to use it. And I couldn't do that being the owner. So the only way to do it was put it in my mom's name. And the only rule I had for her was she had to vote, and she had to vote the way I told her to. Right. Which, we were so young. Gosh, we were 20, I don't know, 22, 23, and right, the mindset of the older people were just like, these young kids are coming in and ruining it, and I'm like, you're the people who are keeping the young kids out, and we're the ones that are bringing in the money eventually. Like, if we don't care about the younger generation, you'll never be successful. Like, you have to. My mind always thinks about the next person to take care of my ass, you know. So, and when you look at the place, like Sandy Pines will always be something, but it dies out quite a bit, and it's because truthfully the wrong people kind of get into power. When we left, they started charging. We used to get free golf at 18-hole golf course, and then it was like, oh, you have to pay $3, and then it became like $5, and then you have to do this, and it just everything was regulated. So just know that if you go into a place like that, a resort, that you can't always rent out your place.
Well, and I know one of your favorite places is a place near and dear to my heart because, I grew up just outside of Kalamazoo. And, when I was a kid, because it was closer, we went to South Haven.
Oh, absolutely love South Haven.
Love South Haven. Fantastic town, right on the water. Spent a lot of time at North and South Beach out in South Haven. We had football practice there every year. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Best practices.
And South Haven, right? So it's a great town. They're starting their regulations on Airbnbs, right? Like because I do want a place at South Haven. It's just the market's kind of gone up past where I want to be. But they have Blueberry Festival, and every Airbnb is full during Blueberry Festival. You can't find things to rent there. Anybody that isn't from here and you want to go to South Haven, you're going to go to a place called Maria's. It's the greatest Italian food I've had in my life. Well, I mean, I don't know. We went to a place in Tennessee that had great Italian food as well. But Maria's is hands down all authentic, homemade. It's just great. The breadsticks you talk about Fazoli's breadsticks, and we're talking, these breadsticks are just fantastic. So, it's a great spot. Everywhere everywhere you have a vacation spot, right, on the water, on anything, you will be able to Airbnb, no problems.
Well, if you're ever visiting Michigan, there are certain places, you're going to want to hit in the summer. You're going to want to hit probably St. Joe. You're going to want to hit South Haven. You're going to want to hit Saugatuck. You're going to want to hit Holland and Grand Haven. You're probably going to want to go up to Pentwater, which I've never been to because I don't go north. Silver Lake.
Oh, I love Silver Lake.
Been there a couple times with Tim and Christy. It's nice. It's not really my thing, but it's nice.
Oh, did you get to go on the dunes?
Yeah, Tim took us.
Send it, baby. Let's go. Yee.
We went up and down the hills. Dawn looked at me and goes, I can't believe you're not shitting yourself right now. And I said, I totally trust Tim. It's the only reason I'm not.
Oh man, first time I got to go out, buddy of mine his family's got a Jeep. They let everybody borrow. Man, we were just sending that thing up hills. Like, here we go. And you get stuck. People pull you out. Nice people there, man. It's just a fantastic time. Dirt bike squads. Watch the guy wipe out on the dirt. He just comes up entrance hill, guns it, and then flips end over end. Like, no clue why. Just broke his flag. Was done. But they're and it's right on the water, right? So think about big giant sand hills, dunes, and right on the water. So you pull in up the first hill, and right there you just look over Lake Michigan, or no, sorry, Silver Lake itself, and then you get to the backside, and Lake Michigan's right there. So, yeah, gosh, what a beautiful area.
We do have some really beautiful areas in Michigan, just gorgeous.
Yeah, let's say, Airbnb is a great thing. Just make sure you check your regulations. That's the biggest thing I'm going to tell anybody. You can't really do the 1% rule. I mean, you can, but you can't. I mean, the way I see it is you have to figure out what's available for rent on Airbnb. It's a lot of work. Figure out how much things are renting for, if yours even compares to what theirs is, how nice it is. And usually with Airbnb, right, you have to kind of offer something special and different to really get your value out of it, is from what I'm finding, I guess.
So those are kind of the short-term investment properties. So let's look at long-term rentals. So you already hit on long-term buy and hold.
Yep.
What about the rental debt snowball? What can you tell me about rental debt snowball?
That's a great question. Right. So, when it comes to rental debt snowball, I don't know anything. I'm assuming that it's right. Take your lowest rental and take all your rental income from it and pay down on it. Um, so if you own more than one, right, just keep paying that rental off so that way it pays itself.
So of course, I still have Google up. So here we go. Uh, the rental debt snowball is for anybody that's been investing in real estate for a while. Um, it's a transition from Burr investing, basically. Okay, so you collect all the cash flow from your current rental properties, and then you use that to pay off one mortgage at a
Sure. And that's
time.
yeah,
And
that's perfect.
yeah, so that really works like the snowball effect. The debt payoffs start to snowball and accumulate over time so that you can build wealth, theoretically faster and start paying off those debts as you start bringing in all that income.
Yeah. Just say, and I've never heard it, I guess, as a debt snowball, right? We talk about it. We talk about it in the snowball thing, and we talk about paying off, hey, highest mortgage, lowest mortgage, things like that. So it's not a thing I do, to be honest. So I don't study it. I didn't know it was really a thing that's out there. People build their own plans and they pay the debts. Really, it's what it is.
So what about the exchange plan? Do you know anything about this?
1041 or sorry, gosh,
1031?
1041. Yeah, say I'm reading the time. No, yeah, 1031 exchange. Yeah, so right, basically a 1031 exchange is a way to defer your taxes. So we talked about if you're an owner occupied, you don't pay taxes after you've lived there for 2 years. Well, if you don't occupy it and you haven't in 2 out of the past 5 years, you have to pay taxes on that property when you go to sell it on your profits. So you buy a house for $100,000, you don't put any money into it, right? Because you get to write off what you put into it, but you don't put any money into it. And 5 years goes down the road and it appraises at 150. You're like, hey, I'll take a $50,000 gain. Well, you're gonna pay whatever your income tax on that is. If it's less than 2 years, less than a year, you pay higher taxes on that for capital gains. But let's say, right, so you're paying 25%, so $12,500 in taxes instantly on that. So you're only getting $3,750 of profit on that property that you're taking home, which isn't a bad score. But what you can do with that property or with that money instead of paying the government $12,500 right then and there, you take that and let's say it was a single family house and you can roll that into another single family or you can roll it into something bigger. And the price does have to be bigger than what your original price was. So you take that and, hey, now you have $12,000 more of a down payment on your next place. So it helps you buy bigger places faster and you don't have to pay the government their taxes. Eventually you will. Once you sell that last thing, once it happens, you have to pay the taxes. But it's a way to defer it for a long period of time. I have a friend that doesn't, he just believes get it done and paid with. And I have other friends that, I have a friend that bought a 60-something unit off of 1031 exchange, right? Because he sold, an 8 unit into a 12 into a 24 into a 68 unit or something like that. And then when he goes to sell that 68 unit, he will have to pay taxes on it unless he rolls it into something else. So, which I know for a fact he's rolling it into something else. He's actually going to roll it into a fund for people to buy, and it'll be the next people will buy bigger and bigger. So his money will go to real estate use. You can't take that money and put it towards anything else except for another property, and you have to say what property it is within 6 months. Don't quote me on that. I want to say you have to pick and close on the property in that quick of a time. So right, you can't just say, oh, someday I'm going to put it there. No, they will allow you if you know what you want to buy. If you don't, you have to pay the money.
So then we have some passive options, which that's kind of up my alley. I like passive. I don't have to do a whole lot.
Yeah.
I just put some money in and I get more money on the back end. So real estate syndications.
Yeah.
What can you tell me?
That you're too broke.
We already knew that.
No, right. So syndication. Syndication is a way of gathering accredited investors' money, pooling it together to buy a property. Now, accredited investors, you must be accredited, right, by the government, which basically means you have to have $1 million in net worth. So what that does is it stops David and myself, let's say, sorry, from, they figure if you have $1 million, you have the knowledge and possibilities to lose that money. You have that option to take that risk. They say people that don't just aren't in that position, so they don't really allow it. There's other ways around it. We'll talk about that next. But so let's say, hey, you get 6 guys who have $1 million net worth or more. You want to buy a $10 million property, and you're going to have to put on $10 million. You're going to have to put $2.5 million down on that, right? So 25%. Usually you can get 20%. But 2.5 million. Well, 6 out of people that have $6 million, they don't want to spend all that, so they break that up. Well, I mean, they break it up, and everybody has to pitch in like $400,000, right? You can do it with a bigger group. So the bigger it is, the more people. Those numbers aren't always great because if you only have $1 million in net worth, you're not going to invest 40% of your money. But right, so you get a big group of people to buy a big property. And what they do is, so you have one guy kind of up top who manages the whole fund. You're accredited, so you're going to get a preferred rate of return on your money. So banks won't loan on it. They're gonna give it to you. So now the company, and the people that's trying to buy the property, they're gonna come and say, hey, we'll give you an 8%, and then we'll give you whatever percent of profits that we make. Hey, we want to do renovations, so they're going to put their money into there, get paid back monthly. You get paid back, and right, so you throw your money and have somebody else invest it into a substantial product or property for you. So, people to look for like that do syndication. I was on the Joe Fairless podcast, right? He's a big syndicator. Grant Cardone, who I think is he does great things, but I think he's a tool bag since the COVID thing happened, where he laid off 90% of it, or fired. Didn't he? I don't even know if it was laid off. His employees, no notice, said if you have a problem with it, sue me. It was a horrible way to go about it. So I lost some respect for him, and he doesn't care, right? He flaunts around his jet, and he flaunts around. Does he have more money than me? Yes, but do I have higher standards for myself than he does? Apparently. Doesn't make either of the two of us any better than each other. One of the people I love to watch is Ben Mala. Just right, he's a buy and hold investor. Buys it all himself, right? He's got a son that manages and stuff like that, but it's a family business and they grow. He's sitting here, he owns 7 hotels on an International Drive or something like that in Florida. Just great guy. Or 7 hotels in Florida. I know at least one is on International Drive. Great, holds him. Yes, he makes the same jokes that I make and they come off as whatever, but he's just a good guy in general, is the way I see it. But syndication, as I said, accredited investors that invest a sum of money and get a preferred return on their money for people that aren't, because most people don't have $2.5 million sitting around to buy a $10 million place. So what you do is you raise that funds, and then people get paid back on their funds. So that way the $10 million is owned.
So the next one we have is crowdfunding, which that's something I do. Okay. So like Fundrise, which I have money in Fundrise, my daughter has money in Fundrise. You have to put in a certain amount of money, and then you own a percentage of their portfolio. And when they'll lend out the money to builders or
flippers,
and when it pays back, you're earning the money back and some kind of a percentage. I think the last time I looked at my Fundrise account, I was at around 7-8% that I was earning back,
which isn't, it's not bad, right? So real estate is a risk, everybody, just so you know. I should have started with that. It's a risk. It's not for everybody. But Fundrise is a way. I don't know the minimums, David. You would.
So with Fundrise, I bought in at 500 because they were running a special where you could buy in at 500.
Okay.
Typically it's $1,000, but it's anywhere between 500 and 1,000 to depending on the company you buy in with, because there's different ones. So there's Fundrise, there's Pier Street, Realty Mogul, Groundbreaker, Crowd Street. So a lot of these are popping up.
Yep.
And depending on which one you go with is a different amount. So when Caitlin bought into Fundrise, it was $1,000. So she put $1,000 in there, and it was, I don't know, a couple years ago, and she's up over 1,100 now.
Sure. Well, so right, when it comes to crowdfunding, it's really what it is, right? So it's non-syndicated people, non-accredited investors, people that don't do necessarily. It's the same as syndication without the same rules, right? So you can put in less money. You can finance people's deals. Without having to have the full amount. And again, you and me, David, right? We don't just have, I don't know, $300,000 to lend out, and even for, we might have it for a day, right? But it'd have to be like the world's biggest guarantee that I'm getting it back tomorrow. But we don't have it, so we can sit out there for 1 month to 3 years for a project to get finished. I know there's places where you can crowdfund for. Somebody was just asking for money for like a 24 unit that was gutted, and like they needed all the rehab, but it was going to be worth it because it was in a really populated area. The numbers kind of just added up, and they got it for such a steal of a deal. So they just, honestly, they paid cash for the building. They just needed money for the repairs. So, and once you get that kind of going, then you get your cash flow on it. The issue is like, right, once they refinance out, you get paid off. Once they sell it, right, you get paid off, and you as a non, yes, you have ownership, but as the non, you make zero decisions, right? You're just funding somebody else's dream and somebody else's deal, which is completely cool. One other thing I wanted to bring up that David didn't have on his list, because I have to have something, is right, lending, hard money lending, right? You can do that. Hard money lending is basically like crowdfunding, except for one person lends on it. So it goes back to, hey, you found me. Like right now, I'm dealing with, I use hard money every once in a while, but I'm looking at a house that's worth, we're hoping 165. I can purchase it for $100,000, $102,000. And I'm hoping to put 22,000 into it, right? Our numbers, lumber's gone down a little bit. So actually I just seen 2x4s for $4 and something cents. So that was really, it's almost half price of COVID, the beginning part of it. So yeah, 2x4s have gone down extreme, but right. So things go up, but anyway, so you can lend me $100,000 because I don't have a W-2. I can't get financed the easy way, but now I'm going to pay back this person let's call it 100,000. I'm going to pay them back 10% in interest, right? Out of a year, and then on a monthly basis, I have to pay them back. So, right, 10,000. So my minimum payment is $883 or something like that every single month, just in interest payments. So you can see why I don't want to be in hard money very long. So that makes me have to flip really quickly. The faster I make that payment, the better. Usually a rough number for people that are watching to get hard money. So if you don't have the funds to get it and you can't get qualified because you don't have credit, but you found a steal of a deal, what you do is you go to hard money. That's how I bought this house, the one I'm in. Right, I couldn't close fast enough because closing. I mean, you're going through it right now, David.
Yep.
Closing on a purchase, right, takes, I don't know, a few months in total, 2, right, from beginning to end. Well, hard money, right, I've seen it go as fast as 4 days, but they can usually get it done in less than 2 weeks, right? So you pull title, they're gonna go, okay, hey, what's the purchase price? 100K. What's the value? 180,000. That's a no-brainer, right? Instantly, if you foreclose, don't pay that bill, don't do anything, they have a $80,000 worth of equity in a place that they're lending you on. So, they're gonna lend that, and the idea is you wanna refinance out of that, because once you have that much equity, right? Again, a bank is gonna look at it. So if you don't own it ahead of time, a bank won't lend on it. But once you've paid cash, right, hard money, you officially own that. Yes, you owe somebody, but you own it, and then you can go ahead and refinance out of that property and have a lower interest rate, and usually go to a 30-year compared to a 1-year term. Hard money, you can do it for 6 months to I've heard of a couple like 2 years, but usually it's 12 months max. And you're going to want to refinance out of that thing because nobody wants to pay 10%, especially when interest rates are, I don't know, 3% right now. Even at 4, you're still saving 6% in taxes, or of interest on it. Your taxes aren't going to change. So hard money is definitely, it's a good tool to use, but it's a scary thing, right? It's a really expensive credit card in this game.
So kind of the last one I have for passive is REITs, which is real estate investing trust.
Yep. So, right, it's another. There's actually stocks that are REITs, right? So you throw your money there, and again, we're talking, right, when you hear the trust fund baby and things like that, right? Like, I mean, you're throwing your money into these types of people who are investing in, let's call it Rambo Woods, right? The 380 unit apartment complexes. I mean, you're helping these people buy massive buildings. That's what I find the normal of it, right? There's other types of REITs and things, like people that want to buy a portfolio of like 12 houses or things like that. I mean, but right, it's just a pool of investors, and the pool just gets bigger and bigger, and you own a small part of it. And it's a great way to get into it, just like crowdfunding, right? Except for, honestly, with a REIT, you're getting returns pretty much, because I mean they're usually established, they've been doing it. You're not getting a big return, but you're getting a return on your money, because these people are investing. They're just buying the world, man. Like, big, right? Everybody goes, oh man, who owns that big complex or whatever? I mean, we're talking hundreds of units, right? That's what a REIT is basically, it's a stock. You get to throw and buy a share of this, and then so David, you could put $1,000 into crowdfunding, and you're funding, I don't know, 1%. Well, now you could take that 1,000 and divide it smaller and smaller, and then you can own 10 people can own 1% of the bigger deal. So but it's a great return on your money.
So is there anything we kind of missed here, Nick, when it comes to real estate investing strategies?
Honestly, I think we've touched really good on the ideas of it. right? Different ways you can get into it. I mean, you can dive so deep into every single one of them.
Yep.
That was the hard part for me. Was I'd rather be asked questions so I can give basic answers than dive so deep into all of these, because as I said, it's your business, it's your strategy. You can build it however you want, and that's the beauty of this. Is there's so many ways we've talked about um, hands on being in it. We've talked about hands off, like, hey, I want somebody else to do it, but I like real estate. We've talked about giving your money to let other people do real estate and make a bigger return. I mean, when your money's out there, you're hands on, but you're hands off. I mean, you you keep in touch and go, hey, this is pretty good. I think we've hit rental real estate, or just real estate investing in general, in a really good section in this episode.
So I want to kind of highlight some things that are coming up.
Yep.
Because I think we have some really cool things coming up. So on Sunday, Nick and I did a discussion on debt with a former football teammate of mine and somebody I went to high school with named Eric. And Nick had a lot of questions on what kind of debt do you have and why do you have debt? And we really kind of dived deep into what his finances, look like debt-wise. And it was probably hour and a half. And I thought that was a fantastic discussion. We have a couple more lined up. We're going to do one with Vanessa Mills on Saturday, and then we're going to do another one I have not scheduled with Gary yet, but we're going to do Gary in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to release those as special episodes and podcasts, because I think diving into debt is really important. I know Nick was really excited to kind of get into the mind of somebody on what their debt is.
Yeah, and because it's right, and I don't mean to sound this way, but right, like, my mind has never been that way. And I want to understand, like, I know my wife was in some debt and stuff like that, and I guess I've lived through it, but still just couldn't understand how, like, the answer was always just, I don't know, I just always thought I'd pay it. And I think that's a lot with a lot of people. So now it's okay, now the more I talk to people and the more I get into it, it's the more I can figure out, hey, if we pre-plan, if we start tracking, if we budget, I mean, that's the biggest key. Like, it's proof that what we're doing works, right? Like, budgeting is key for so many things, even in real estate, right? You have to budget for everything. Another episode or two that we have coming up, we have a friend of mine. He's actually a cousin who bought a franchise, right? So an actual name. A named franchise that it's very famous. It's and we're going to talk to him on kind of the ins and outs of buying a franchise, like a big name that's all over the world. We're going to talk to I think a GM on a food restaurant that they happened to close, and what was the big reason for that. We're gonna learn some things about the industries of business owning and the ups and the downs. So we're taking what people kind of want to hear. We're taking what people are living through, and we're trying to give you some real life scenarios. I know today in real estate, I only talked round kind of numbers, but when I say I bought my house for $60,000, I paid $60,000. I could have talked about closing costs, but it's been so long I don't remember. But I tell you rents, I can tell you all this, but I love talking to real people that are doing real things, that have done things, and how and why. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope my knowledge is on point for you. If you have any questions that you want detailed answers, or you want to pick my brain, I will always hop on a Zoom. Just tell me to drink a few beers before we do it, and I'll give you every answer you want. But like always, right? Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your mom. If you hate it, smash the dislike button, because we want to know who hates this stuff. I mean, right? And then I won't know who you are, and I might figure out and try to reach out to you and go, what can I do better? Because I always want to do better, right? if it shaved my beard, I'll probably tell you to piss off. But David, thanks so much for the questions. I really, when it comes to real estate, like my problem is I could talk for hours and hours upon it and get into so much depth. I mean, I get into people and whys and hows, and I think it's a really awesome episode to keep on track today.
Yeah, I'm really kind of happy with this one. Like Nick said, we got a lot of great episodes coming up. If you have ideas for episodes, please reach out to us. If you have questions, please reach out to us. We do this to try and bring knowledge to people. When we sat down with Eric, that was one of the things we kept talking about is, we're just trying to share knowledge. And the more knowledge we can share, hopefully we can get some knowledge back and we can learn about some things that we don't necessarily know about. I will say that both Rochester Mills and Saugatuck will be waiting to hear from you so you can sponsor us in the future, because Nick and I will work for beer.
Factual statement. That is, say truer words could not be said. We'll go to Wisconsin if they fly us out. But Oddside Ales, right? We will come bring us to the crowd. Our families will probably join us when COVID allows it, but we will use your Wi-Fi, drink your beer, and if you have us out, let's say you buy us one, we will probably buy the other 12. So, Oddside, great job on the hazelnuts, toasted marshmallow coconut. You didn't let me down. The variants are fantastic.
So once again, we enjoyed being with you again this week, and we look forward to talking to you next week. For those of you that are watching the YouTube, happy Thanksgiving. For those of you that catch this on a podcast, it'll be aired before something. We don't know
what. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Yeah.
There you go. So we'll catch you guys next time.